Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name is Dave, and this is the culmination of so much hard graft and effort and fun and conversations. But this is the last episode in our Nations episode, and this time it is the League, and we're going to finish things off with what I hope is going to be an absolute fucking corker. Because who wants to go first, introducing themselves and what they do at Empire? Miranda, away you go.
Hello, my name's Miranda. I also answer to Mim, and I play in the League and have played in the League since year one of Empire. And you might know me if you post at all in Empire's official PD online communities, because I am the head mod. Hello.
Okay, Natalie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm not going to go into all the reasons that Mim is selling her achievements in the League short. Looking glass.
Yeah.
But hi, I'm Nat. I've played in the League since I started Empire, which was tum years ago now. If you see me around, I'm a red-headed Cambion, and I play Senator for Sarvos, so that's a great laugh. And I really love the League, so I'm super excited to be here because I could literally talk about it forever. So good luck.
Yeah, I think both of you are like. When I was looking for guests for this, and a couple of names got mentioned, and basically yours names got mentioned, I was like, them. That is them. I want them for the League. This is going to be.
You may live to regret.
Yeah. So just to quickly, we're going to talk about the League, and we're going to go into like all the good stuff about the League. But basically, let's have just a briefest overview of what the Looking Glass is before we continue, because we're probably going to reference it a bunch. So it's better that we get out, mention it now.
Well, I don't know how much I'll go into it, since only one of us. There are three. It is an in-character magazine. It is not the only in-character newspaper or magazine by a long way that exists at Empire, and it's certainly not the only one in the League, but it has been running for knocking on for 5 years now, and it is fully illustrated by hand by us. There's three of us, and I'm one of them, and Orms. And it's a useful thing to reference sometimes when I talk about social role play in the League, because I think the League lends itself, out of all the 10 nations, to lots of social role play around reputation, around gossip, and around concepts of soft power. Though I would argue in the League, out of all the nations, there is much more of a blurry line between hard and soft power, if you even subscribe to that binary.
Okay, we got to slow way down. Okay, we got to slow way down. For all those people that were just like, that's a lot. I really want to talk about those subjects. But what do you?
Magazine.
I've heard it's like a fashion magazine. Is that right?
Yeah, it's an in-character society, fashion, arts, and culture, and politics and opinion magazine.
Like Vogue meets New York Times. It does have a lot of fashion, but it's also Mel and Becca, who I'm sure won't mind a bit of a shout out, and Mim cover literally everything from a really astonishing understanding of not only the brief as written, but the costume brief as played, and engaging with it, and also some of the most sort of fantastic plot and political and articles.
As a player, it's legendary. Okay, it's literally like one of those things I hear about. Do you know, like, what's funny about me of all people doing this episode is how many fabulously dressed people I know that their biggest aspiration above all things would be to be featured in your magazine. And I am the scruffiest looking Navarre you're ever likely to see, and I have no business talking to people like you at all, and I just think it's beautiful. It's absolutely fantastic. I literally know people who, and I don't want to say their names because I don't want to skew anything, but people very much want to get into your magazine. Very much. Like,
I wish we had the other two on for this, because I definitely think we could talk an entire podcast about that, and about
maybe that's a future episode.
About how that's gone and what it works like. But what I want to talk about is playing in the League. I mean, I think we might reference the fact the League has a fashion economy, and the fact that the League has this sense of competitive glamour. But I don't.
Maybe let's start with
spend the episode blowing my trumpet about my in-character magazines. I don't think it's the best route
we
in.
will blow. We will blow your trumpet later, okay? First of all, we will go to what attracted you. Basically, what in the brief did you see in the league that attracted you, and then maybe what was different when you actually started to play, or what was your interpretation of the brief different from when you actually got to play it, I should say.
So I don't know if me and Mim are maybe in slightly similar boats, definitely starting off. And that actually we both started off separate times, but started in the same group, and it was in essence because a chunk of our friends had gone in, and we're actually really interested in. There's some stuff in there on the idea of kind of universities and sort of scholarly pursuits within the league. So I was only in that group for I think a season because they all, apart from Mim, died. So after that, I actually kind of had a bit more of an idea of what the league was about and went back through. And actually, for me, I absolutely fell in love with the quite small but very, very interesting brief on Kikabeo in the league, or Kikabay to use the plural, which we at one point had to decide. And this...
I've only recently heard about this archetype, by the way. Since the end of since lockdown and all the rest of it, only at player events have I really heard this term, and it blows my mind that this is.
We are fabulous. Everybody should know about us. But I have a real interest in power dynamics in LARP and where you can draw power from, and this kind of comes back to this idea of soft and hard power. And I really liked the idea of playing a character who, and especially when I started, basically my way of making in-character money was to convince people that they wanted to spend time with me and pay for the privilege.
I've never thought of it that way.
Very, very fantastic kind of lean in. It sort of was me going, right, dive in head first. I've got to do this, otherwise I can't buy myself a drink in the evening. So
amazing.
That was a massive appeal to me.
And a Kikabeo is kind of like a entertainer, like a geisha almost, but like European.
My usual way of describing them, and please do stop me if you're going to get sort of cease and desisted. But their best comparison is generally the companions from Firefly. So there are definitely elements, and there are inspiration from courtesans and sex workers historically. But they are much more than that in terms of the services and the reputation of them. They are seen as, the moment you step in the board, you are a very well-educated individual who has got a lot to say and has got a lot to offer. You might be an entertainer, you might be just somebody who's like, hey, I have some things to say, priests, the whole lot. So again, I genuinely love that to sort of subvert a lot of the traditional narratives around sex workers, especially women who are sex workers, in especially sort of fantasy literature and storytelling, being able to sort of flip that on its head and go, hey, I can in fact be the most important person in this room was really exciting for me.
Yeah, my first interaction with a Kikabeo, which was before I even knew the term or the archetype, was literally going to a bar and being offered to like go to a tent and potentially have a massage or play cards or anything like this. And it was like us not knowing the thing was just perfect Navari, kind of like we didn't know really how to react to that. But the hospitality was outstanding, and it was just really, really nice and a pleasant environment, you know. So it's only recently that I've actually learnt what the archetype is, and it does fascinate me.
We are in fact an archetype. We are one of the ones that you can pick. Along with the Bravos, etc. So yeah, if anybody is interested, I think they're fantastic. And that actually leads really nicely into sort of league hospitality, which I think is a really big part of the way that the league is played.
Let's put a cork in that for 1 second. Get Mim in on the conversation. same question. What drew you to the nation, and were there any differences when you actually started to play them? Essentially,
I'm going to read out a line from the League's nation description, which you can read on the wiki. It's actually a few lines because this is what really drew me in. Right. This is the League. The rivers that run down to the Bay of Katazar are the veins of the Empire, carrying the lifeblood of trade. The 4 great cities are its beating heart, sending tides of wealth back and forth across the nations. In the south are Sarvos, elegant and sophisticated, cultured and refined, and Tasato, pragmatic, Machiavellian, persuasive, and articulate. In the north are Temeshwar, ruthless, relentless, cold and hard, and Holberg, pragmatic, ingenious, innovative, and enlightened. So you have these 4 cities, and each of them is a kind of bustling hub with a slightly different character. And I was really transported by this. This idea of these 4 cities who are geographically very far apart, but together in a kind of shared spirit. And then there's this other line, which I love. It is said that the cities of the League never sleep. By day, the powerful guilds clash over business interests, and the free companies seek to find work on the Empire's borders. By night, the street balladeers perform on every corner. Rival theatre houses fight duels where the wordplay matters more than the swordplay. The long con is as much an art form here as the politics of high office. And this is my favourite bit. In the coffee houses that never close, the cant covers both. So this idea that you have this fantastic collision of street carnivalesque, wheeler-dealer sort of types, and then these people of high office doing backroom deals. And I just thought, this is like the Orlesian Empire in Dragon Age meets Ankh-Morpork from Discworld meets a Shakespeare play. And I thought, oh, absolutely, I want in on this because it's got this wonderful sweeping period drama energy where everyone's got an agenda and who's tricking who and things like that. But it's also got a kind of a deep romantic sweep to it that is very distinct from, I would say, Dornish romance. It's got a Shakespearean creative energy and an interesting wit and performance. And I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to go and play there. And as Matt says, there was a group who were a bunch of university students, which was great for me. Because I didn't really know a lot else about the setting. I'd read like this one page and a couple of others. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be a university student. We're on a field trip to Anvil. We've never been. And we're straight out of this city and we're really kind of urbane. We think we're really sophisticated, but we are ultimately teenagers without a clue. And we're on a field trip to Casanea to meet all these different people from around the Empire. And that was my route into the game.
That's awesome.
So...
yeah, like my main kind of like whenever I've seen the League around, like, and the memories of like distinct people from the League are there's like one couple that dress identically and they have like an absolutely fabulous outfit with like a feather in their hat, and it's like they just look fucking amazing. They look like the cool kids, right? Like, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Like, because they're so distinct.
No one knows if they're really a couple or if they just work together or if they're family.
Oh, I should say a couple. Yeah, that was. I meant couple as in like man and woman. Even that's pretty bad. Let's move on. But like, they're like, there's a vibe of the League that are like. They're cool, they're witty, they're very fashionably dressed, and they're like whenever I've had thoughts about like dealing politically with the League, I just know that like I'm gonna be 2 steps behind everything that's going on, and that like whatever I think is gonna happen will probably not work out that way, and yeah, I'll have been swindled at the last. Is how me as a Navarre views dealing with politics with the League.
And that means that our grand ruse is working. I can absolutely promise that for a lot of the people doing politics in the League, we're sometimes the last to know, but we're good at making it look like we knew the entire time.
Nice. Yeah, the kind of like the huddled
actual
whispers.
Political acumen is not needed for being in the League.
I like that the huddled whispers are not like, to put in the master plan or do this. It's just like, oh shit, what the hell are we gonna do? You know, like
this was happening. We didn't.
Yeah. So maybe we can describe like kind of look and feel, kind of like talk about some of the kind of dress ideas. You were mentioning the different cities. How do they kind of like? I'm feeling this might well be a very long section in the podcast. So who wants to kick us off?
I think so. The League definitely has these 4 cities with very distinct identities that also blur together. And I would say you can wear the League costume brief. There are ways you can signal your city, but they're not hard and fast rules. You know, you can be from the north and wear yellow if you really want to, but there is a rough trend in the field, I think, of signaling that you're from the north with slightly darker toned colours and heavier fabrics because it's cold up there, and the south are a bit more with the razzmatazz, and we're all very blingy, but there are some subtle tells that some people choose to put in. So in character I wear loads of brown because the whole costume brief says that we like leather and a more muted colour palette and fur, and we are considered drab by the sunny cities of the south. And so I decided that I was going to work really hard to try and be the kind of person where all your cool friends are like, stop trying to make brown happen, it's never going to happen. And you're sitting there in head to toe brown velvet, and all your friends from Holberg are like, what, she looks really cool, and no one else agrees. Because I love the sense that Holberg is the kind of a nerd club slightly of the League. You know, they really like siege engineering and the colour brown.
Yeah, how would you describe like the more feminine and more masculine type garbs that you have? There's like a lot of dresses in the League, and there's a lot of
there is a line from the League costume brief referring to sort of femme costume, which is one of my favourite lines in any costume brief I have ever read, and it is one that I have tried to stick to, which is the bodices should look like they are made of not enough fabric, and the skirts should look like they're made of too much. Which has led to a fantastic line from Mim's character Nora, who was at a social event with a group of people she'd rather not be there with, so had chosen to wear hose rather than skirts, and said, well, the occasion doesn't really call for 5 yards of fabric, does it? Which was just, there had been a murder. It was the most damning thing I'd ever heard, but it was a fantastic piece of sort of PvP through costume, which I love.
9 yards. I went on a skirmish in the whole 9 yards though, and I have to say my character was like, I should have thought this through. I had to do a battle roll under a bush in a ball gown. But you know, I think the thing about the League is I just did it because the League will do that. You know, I went on this skirmish with someone from Navarre, and he was like, you have not dressed for the occasion. And I said, well, I am a priest. I am very much dressed for the occasion. I've brought all my, you know, and I listed all the things I had hanging off my belt. And he was like, that was not what I meant.
No, I like that. It's the kind of, they may be wearing a lot of these dresses and stuff, but you do get the feeling that they're ready for action all the time. Hidden blades, poison, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that whole martial aspect of having the free company vibe with the whole thing, where there's a lot of kind of mercenary work and people are like almost nobility that's good with a blade, you know, like they've been trained or whatever, that vibe.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure there are some pictures on the wiki that your lovely listeners will be able to find. But the free companies in the League do a really amazing job of sort of. We might occasionally joke that Dawn very handily put themselves in like football colours to help us identify them. But the free companies actually make a really, really amazing coherent look whilst keeping a lot, without sort of going down that route of everyone being in the same colour. So you see these big groups of people with and Mim will know the correct terms for it, but sort of all the sleeve slashing and the halberds and the hats. And they're very instantly recognisable as Leaguish Free Company, even if there's just one of them wandering around.
Just as like a wee point of order, do the what are your groups called? Let's get down to some real basics.
Okay, so the main unit of a group, shall we say, for playing in the League is a guild. sometimes referred to in the Southern League cities as a carter, but it means the same thing. So you are a group of people who are doing business together. You are mercantile, but you might live together in a guild house as if you were a family. You might have all taken a guild oath. You may have a charter, or you may be scattered around in apartments across more than one city. But you will all be serving that guild's interest, and the guild is led by a merchant prince.
I've heard this. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. And okay. Just because we mentioned it, the free companies. Can you join a free company that is not part of your guild? And
you can also have your group sort of be a free company. A free company is a group of mercenaries. So you may have a guild that mostly is made up of members of a free company. So the whole point of the guild is that they are mercenaries. Or you may have a group of people who are attached to a larger guild, and so that guild is fielding certain of its members as a free company. But an example of quite a prominent free company in the field at the moment is the Seawolves, who are
shout out to the Seawolves. You're the best. Love you.
They wear very iconic kind of golden, yellow, and black. You see them a mile off. They've all got the same insignia, but they have a very strong free company vibe, with their kind of matching slashed shirts and their feathers in their hats, and they're led by a merchant prince who's very much a war leader. In look, she's very martial, but they also do have Kikabei in their ranks. So you'll see them all marching off to war, but they've also got performers, mages, entertainers, who are you can be both essentially. You can fight in a free company and be affiliated with or in a guild. Yeah.
Like I know a fucking battle butler, right?
Oh yeah,
like,
we love him.
The battle butler.
Shout out to the battle butler.
He's my homie. But it's more like the okay, let me put it this way. I was at a player event and he actually I shouldn't mention it. No. He's doing okay for cash is all I should say. But the
he's very prosperous.
He is very prosperous, yeah. In fact, he was just like, oh, don't worry, I spend it as fast as I earn it. And I'm like, you must be spending a lot, sir.
That is extra prosperous, probably.
But that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to kind of, like, we're skirting around it. And I'm really struggling to kind of come up with, like, fitting it all in. Because there's a lot to the League. And to see it all together as one thing makes more sense. Like, we're discussing these little aspects of it, right? Like, but like having a Kikabeo within your lines to go off to battle, to have a battle butler who literally goes out there and can do ceremonies for you on the field and things like that. It's like, plus there's maybe let's talk about the theatre stuff, right? The performance stuff. Like, let's go into that a little bit. Like, how many theatre groups are there, and how do you indulge in the theatre stuff?
I think that's hard to categorize because again, lots of leaguers will have a theatrical streak, so they may all indulge in dramaturgy, which is a thing in the League. They may use
dramaturgy.
Who
came up with that? That's a terrible name.
What's involved? It's actually a word. Dramaturgical.
Really?
Yeah, dramaturgical.
It doesn't make it real. Doesn't make it good. What does it mean?
Dramaturgy, I see, is. Do you want to go?
No, you have this.
So in character, it is the most popular form of ritual magic in the League. It does pop up in other nations, but Leaguish dramaturgy is kind of an elaborate.
I take it back. It's genius, and I love it. It's so good.
There's a set of stock characters, and you might have a set of masks that correspond to those characters. And basically, how deep you want to go with it, you can read the wiki page and use nearly all the different tropes from it and really go in hard, or you can just lightly say, "I'm wearing my prince's mask today, so I can be more authoritative," and it's sort of up to you how deep you want to go. But there's a whole thing.
Hold on, I think we just snagged our toe on a rabbit hole there. Did you say there's a whole like lore and wiki about like the language of Leaguish theatre, effectively, with the different masks and all that stuff?
If you want to, it is an option if you are doing ritual magic in the League to use masks a great deal and to look at all the different personae that you can channel your magic with by wearing masks. But also masks are kind of very ubiquitous in the League anyway, but people might use it for social interaction. So if my character's feeling very nervous, she might put on her captain's mask to be more commanding, or she might put on her prince's mask to be commanding in a different way. A bit more
or you might be like, oh shit, Mim's put on this certain mask, she's like pissed off today, like we should leave her alone,
Yeah, there
right?
is a mask for that. That's the bishop's mask. That's the mask of moral absolutes and judgment time. And but you might not know, if you didn't know the character, what the mask was for. You might not know which mask was which, but you could pick up differences in characterization. Maybe, I hope. So and I don't actually wear physical masks very often because they get in the way of my makeup and they kind of annoy me. But I carry them around and I've got them on me at all times for the odd quick moment.
It's probably worth mentioning that masks are part of the League hearth magic.
Yeah.
So, and anybody who's has listened to any of your other stuff, I'm sure it's come across the phrase hearth magic. But they are these sort of little bits of just magic that everyone kind of has a bit of access to. The roles are sort of vaguely inspired by sort of the classic roles of sort of commedia dell'arte and that sort of style of theatre where you have a very specific mask. In the League, it's far more varied, and not every mask relates to one of these characters, or sort of archetypes and almost caricatures. But you will use masks in certain ways. Sort of the mask of I am very annoyed at this specific thing you have done has definitely been put to good use in the League on several occasions. The masks of I am completely done with this shit has also.
Can you maybe describe, like, okay, so a player's listening to this. We've talked about masks, but what do they look like? How do you get hold of them? How would you choose to decorate these? Like, these sort of things. Like, how would you get into this?
So they're generally speaking the sort of classic, if you were looking on just sort of Google Images or eBay or Etsy, and by the way, I've had quite a few off of sort of these sorts of, if you put in sort of Venetian masks, that will be the sort of thing. So it's the classic kind of Venetian carnival masks, usually quite highly decorated, but not necessarily. And there is really not much of a right answer as to what they should look like.
There's an amazing bit on the Masks in the League wiki page where I can't remember exactly what the wording is, but it says something like masks are a great way to get your character to behave in a way that they wouldn't normally for whatever reason that you have, whether you're OC just looking to have fun in any way, or whether you've got a goal that is difficult to attain, I see, without switching your manner up a bit. But there's this line that says, you might be a pleasant and mild-mannered person unless you've put your witch mask on, at which point you become a scheming riddler that no one can make head or tail of. And I love that. I love the idea that you could be actually quite meek and mild, but then when you whack this mask on, you are a disaster. And you do meet people in the League who really run with this. I've met more than one character who had an entire other personality that they only role played as when they with a name that they only role played as when they had a particular mask on. And then, of course, if something happened to that mask, then they were distraught because they couldn't access that bit of themselves, or there's so much you can do with it. I once borrowed someone else's mask in character, and I had a great time kind of trying to emulate some of their mannerisms because it was theirs and they wore it every day and I'd borrowed it, and that messed with my character's head. So there's lots of elasticity to the mask brief. There's lots of ways to play, but it all comes back to the thing on the League brief. There's the League brief, like all the nation briefs, has the 5 things, and one of them is that everything is on show and everything is to play for, essentially. So everything is a big game, but the game is very serious. You make a game out of everything very earnestly. You make fun of everything, but it's very serious and has rules. And I find that constant hopping around from those two sort of binary states really, really fun.
Yeah, there's some stuff on the wiki about Law and Order and how, like, it seems to be implied that a lot of people get up to stuff, but the real art is to, because crime is looked down on and punished very harshly.
Yes.
Whereas the idea is, like, to do an exquisite crime that you can get away with, or at least use subterfuge, or do something special, like a Thomas Crown Affair type heist, right? Is the kind of thing I have in my head, or a poisoning at a ball or something,
So probably one of my favourite lines in the League brief at all, and especially because of sort of a lot of the inspiration for the League, which is kind of cited as things like the Borgias and Lies of Locke Lamora, and because we are all encouraged to do our bit of sort of hand scheming, it would be actually quite easy for us to all just sort of go around murdering each other in order to get what we wanted. So in a fantastic piece of writing, there is a line in the brief which basically goes, if the only way to win the game is to kill the person you're playing against, you have already lost.
Yeah,
which I absolutely adore as a system, and it goes kind of throughout and further than this idea of not murdering people. You have to win, and you have to win well, because if you just kind of get away with it because you were a bit jammy, or that you did it in a really kind of rubbish way that was just a bit then you lose your reputation over it. But if you manage to get away with it, if you manage to sort of settle the score and kind of take the prize just as your opponent thought they had it through sort of clever ways, then you will literally get sort of songs and poems written about you, and it's a fantastic bit of the brief and a way to really encourage people to play in a really interesting way and without just cutting other people off from bits of the game.
This is weird, but I've recently started re-listening to the Lies of Locke Lamora. I was literally listening to it half an hour before doing this podcast, and I had not put both together before. And now I'm like, did my subconscious just be like, "Oh, you're going to listen to this podcast, by the way, this radio play audiobook." Just before doing the league. Like, I find that hilarious how my subconscious has clearly been thinking about this episode and decided to listen to that book again. Amazing. Sorry, Mim, you were about to say.
You mentioned doing a heist. You see, I think in the league, it's quite frowned upon to nick stuff, to steal someone else's wealth. Although certainly there are wheeler dealer types who are crimers of some description. But the league certainly has a criminal underworld, but the idea is not to get caught. And so if you are going to be openly law-abiding, I think rather than nicking someone's item that you covet, you attempt to get something even better made for yourself, or you create a situation in which this item that they have or thing that they have done that seems like such a good idea is then looked upon as embarrassing and passé by everyone because of your manipulations and your schemes, or you all kinds of things like that before you actually try and nick the thing. I think it's really hard to generalize.
Amazing.
But
I think
in which if you can get a really good nemesis who is as clever as you are, who drives you up the wall, then what a gift though. The thing to do there is to send them a really pointed present that can be read both ways, because you respect a good enemy in the league, even though you wish they would die. You don't really, because that would be boring and you would not have had the chance to beat them. And so you get these it's a great nation to play if you like fandom tropes around nemesis, and if you want to, that there's a webcomic by Kate Beaton. There's an edition of Hark a Vagrant by Kate Beaton, which is a very funny webcomic that ran for years, which has two army captains. I believe they're pirates with, I carry a picture of my nemesis wherever I go so that I never forget his face. And it has these two pirates who are obsessed with each other. Sound the cannons. I just want him to know that I'm here. And they hate each other, but they obviously can't live without each other either. And I think if you like those tropes, play in the league because it's everywhere.
I love that. I love that the idea of that you send a present to your enemy that can be taken both ways.
So
it shows so much care and attention, right? Like you're special to me and I hate you. It's
It's actually part of one of our festivals now. Not always necessarily presents, but definitely poetry. So the league has a thing called the Festival of the Mirrors, which happens in summer.
Summer.
So we're saying with great confidence.
Talking in front of a microphone is hard, by the way. So if it isn't summer, it's fine. But yeah, okay. Let's say summer. I think
we can call COVID on the reason that I can't quite remember which one. But there are a number of things that go on during this festival, including sort of looking into mirrors, and mirrors are another bit of our hearth magic that are supposed to kind of reveal sort of elements about one's true self. But another part of that is sending these sorts of backwards presents and poems that are very much this sort of how to be so polite to someone, and it's very much sort of backhanded compliments the festival, and we love it.
People they love insults and people they hate bond poetry, and you can only really do that if they're a fellow leaguer. Otherwise, you've sent your nemesis a love poem, and they're going to get very confused. Or maybe...
Or not. They might be into it.
Right, but you don't want to admit to that. There's much stuff to unpack with that, with the league, and it's kind of... the league absolutely revels in trickery and agendas and intrigue, in intriguing and performative, flamboyant ways. And I just love that so much.
I know so many cool people that are either in the league or going to the league. It's like... But I don't think I'm cool enough. Like I just
fundamentally not true.
I don't think I have the fashion sense. I don't think I have the schemingness of it. Like if I received a present from someone,
it's all I see, the fashion sense.
Well, it'll be. I think it'll be like if my character received a present, I'll be like, oh, what a lovely gift, right? Like I wouldn't stop for a second and.
We also give lovely gifts.
I just give lovely gifts. I think it's definitely worth mentioning as well. So when I first started playing this character in the league, what I actually decided I wanted to play, and again, this was sort of just for me to mess around with, but genuinely something I had a very, very good time doing for the best part of 2 years before stuff happened. So I went in going, I want to play the most earnest, wide-eyed, believes the best in everyone. These illusions were quickly shattered, but it was really, really fun and really interesting. And also a lot of other people got a great deal of mileage out of having someone in games. So the idea that you have to be sort of fundamentally sneaky and all of that, there is masses of gain to be had in not doing that.
I love that as an approach as well, because it creates game for other people, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you go there, I'm going to be a sneaky boreal girl, right? I'm going to run around, I'm going to try and scheme and plot against my enemies and stuff like this. But then you're kind of like turning your wheels. And then suddenly there's this wonderful, innocent flower that's going to come along, and you get to kind of like manipulate and lead, and then maybe show actually you do have feels after all, despite having like maybe set them up for something.
It was dreadful, but I had a fantastic time doing it.
Yeah, no, that's really fun.
Heroes are not born, they're kind of made, is the cliche, and I think certainly I did something similar in the league, and I actually also think that it's possible to be quite a nice person in the league if you want to. I think, I think
if you want to.
Yeah, well, I think there's also, I think there's a strongly held belief in the league that being manipulative does not mean you're not nice. Because one of the dramaturgy personas is the witch, who brings about happy endings and good outcomes through manipulating things. Usually manipulating in plays. She's a stock character who manipulates couples, and so you get your classic Shakespeare comedy where everybody's mistaken identity is in love with someone else's mistaken identity, and the witch will bring everyone together at the end and solve the mystery, and everyone will end up with the person they're supposed to be with or whatever. And that's a trope in league theatre, is the witch will kind of come and manipulate everyone into doing the right thing or doing the thing that is most prosperous. So there is this idea in the league, I think, that just because you're playing a game doesn't mean that you're insincere at your core, and your level of insincerity, well, who is it that deserves your sincerity? There will be people. And the third bit of the half magic there is rings. So, there's masks, there's mirrors, and there's rings in terms of objects of significance in the league.
As in rings for fingers?
Rings for fingers.
Sorry, I make myself sound like a massive pervert just then. Well, it's like, I have to clarify where the rings belong.
Let's say he meant like bells, like Highgarden.
Yeah, that's exactly.
People that you have exchanged rings with, or that you're wearing a ring for, and they're not wearing one back for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be.
Who would do that?
Who would do that, Natalie? And these are people that you've got some measure of sincere bond with, or some agreement. It might be temporary. Like I once exchanged rings with someone because they'd won a competition I was judging, and they had to go and like provide. It was an art contest, so the ring they took a ring to sort of promise they would finish the art and unveil it, or whatever. But but you also have long-term rings that symbolize, really strong bonds that you've got with people, and it's kind of a bit gauche to ask people.
Yes, it's my favorite game to play with people.
Love being like, just ask me that when they're like, "What are all those rings? Which ring is for which person?" I'm like, what a thing to ask me. It's like asking what I'm wearing on my dress. So my character's got genuinely about 10 rings now. They're on every single finger, but they are for different relationships and dynamics in play, and all of them mean something. So it's not
crazy.
Not a nation of
it's
people. The game is very serious.
And it was also a really, really great idea for us all to make our most sort of meaningful and magic imbued, and they're very often to do with loyalty, so very heavily associated with the virtues. It was a really good idea for us to all have these as teeny tiny items that are very easy to lose.
Do you know what? I lost all of mine once. I lost them. I left them under something in my tent, so I didn't actually lose them. I had to go down Chow's in the field and spend like 35 quid on replacement rings because I could not conceive of going in that field without any rings on. And then I brought all these replacement rings back to my tent, and then I found them all like under my pillow. And then I was like, oh, this is awkward. I've blown 35 quid I didn't need to blow on this.
Do you end up like going to charity shops and buying them on Etsy and I guess it depends on your budget, right? But like I guess you just go and buy a load of rings. H&M, right? Okay.
I got like my first year, honestly, they were really shit quality. They turned my skin green.
That's when you know they're good. That's when you know jewelry's good when they
Primark do those like big packs for like £3.50.
Bish bash.
And because of the way the rings are, they don't necessarily need to be in any way particularly high quality. I think probably of mine, I've got one that's worth over a tenner. But a lot of them I've found on eBay and places like that because they look correct.
Do you know what? Some of mine were given to me by other people, so sorry guys, they might be worth over a tenner. I don't know what.
The people who have given me them, I cast no aspersions. They might be. Also, please don't spend a lot of money on a ring for me because I'm not great with small items.
I really love the idea that rings can reflect the personality of the character who gave you them. So my character wears a lot of brown. Considers herself not flashy, though if you're not a leaguer, you will think she's fancy. She's got some rings that are really quite blingy because the people that gave them her were like, this is so tasteful, yes, and it's a huge glass gem, or they were like, you're my best friend. I'm gonna make you wear this. I want to make you wear this because I'm fond of you, and that's how the game works in the league. So I have some rings that my character is like, yes. It's like people will comment on them, and she'll be like, yes, thank you. Yes, I love the person that gave me this very much, and I have to wear it for the rest of my life.
Like a gauntlet, right?
2.5 inches.
And there is an element of that, wearing sort of a really, really hot, and I say this sat in a questionable Christmas jumper, but wearing a really, really horrible Christmas jumper and being like, thanks, I really love my mum, she gave it to me. It's probably just worth briefly kind of the significance of wearing rings is that you wear them for a relationship you have or a promise you have made. So actually giving somebody else a ring in the league or asking a leaguer to wear a ring for you is really quite a big deal because you're basically saying, please can you bind yourself up with hearth magic?
Put this shackle on emotionally to me.
Which leads to some problems. Also, you get to sometimes go as a leaguer, I'm putting this ring on for you and you can't stop me, nah, 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 nah. Which also has a great deal
Elmer.
I didn't know about the ring game until now, and
welcome.
Wow, like from the outside, by the way, crazy. I love it. It's so good. Like, I'll never shake hands with someone from the league the same way ever again. I'll be checking out how many rings they've got on every single time.
Oh, I would. And whilst Mim says that it's considered slightly sort of gauche to ask about these things, we love it. Please keep doing it. I have the most fun. I think usually it's the Dornish will go and they'll be like, so who are all these rings for? And you get to go,
they're very public
how
about.
could you ask? Well, seeing as you didn't know any better, I'll let you choose one and I'll tell you exactly what that one's for. And I love it. I highly recommend any leaguers listening. It's a great game.
Lean in and go, now that means we're good friends because I told you that. So help each other out when we need it. Maybe
yes, now you owe me a reckoning.
Yeah,
and then they panic about what a reckoning is, and it.
What is a reckoning? First question. What is a reckoning?
I love reckonings. My favourite bit of the brief. Let's chat reckonings. Go. You start.
I mean, I think I might have to, as Senator for Savos, certain bits of reckonings. But reckonings they're not necessarily half magic. They're more of a cultural thing. There are bits of them that sort of lean into our half magic. The wiki has some sort of different readings on it. It's sort of fine either way. In short, reckonings are debt accrued and owed. So
and repaid. You must repay all your debts. Debts are not a matter of money. Debts are a matter of social behaviour. So if someone is kind to you when you are feeling vulnerable, you write that in your reckoning book. You owe them, you decide for yourself that you owe them a good reckoning. You put them in your book, maybe you'll do them a favour. If someone is rude to you, or slanders you, or slights you, and bear in mind they may not mean to, but that doesn't matter, you put them in your reckoning book. You owe them a slight in kind. Yes, sir. And
You're going in the
I
book,
have a
basically.
book. Going in the book. You're going in the book, mate. And I love it because people from other nations get a lot of great roleplay out of it because they're like, why are you writing my name in the book? I'll be like, what's your name? Can you spell your name? And they're like, why are you putting it? And I'm like, oh no, so I can do something nice for you because you gave me a cake when I was hungry and waiting for my synod meeting to start. But they're like, should I believe her? Or have I slighted her in some way?
I both want to be on someone's list and also don't want to be on someone's list. Like, equally in my mind.
There's a fairly common saying in the league in that you want neither too much black nor red in your book. So you don't necessarily want to be in anyone's book, and you don't necessarily want to have everybody owing you. And that sort of actually feeds into the prosperity virtue side of it, of hoarding favours and hoarding reckonings is not a good thing to do.
Reckoning is really bewildering, I think, to non-leaguers because it can seem very vengeful. So we
do have a synod motion that says it's definitely not.
Oh yes, well it came up in play.
They did. They said it. They said it. I've got a nice little piece of paper for when next time I'm accused of going, no, it's fine. I have a piece of paper that says I can do what I want.
It's not inherently vengeful. I think in terms of game design, you can play it as incredibly vengeful. You can get obsessed with your reckonings, and you can play someone who's absolutely gone off the deep end with it, and whose priest friends are a bit worried about them. Or you can play it as, this is a way that I keep track in a vigilant manner of what I owe to the people around me. To quote The Good Place, what we owe each other, good and bad, and the social responsibility is a huge theme in the league. It has institutionalized charity. It pretty much invented the concept of the orphanage. It's quite Dickensian in its capitalism. Today's beggar is tomorrow's merchant prince. You never know, the wheel might turn. You need to be paranoid at all times. Who might turn? The wheel might turn, and you might be ruined. You need to keep your reputation intact. You need to play the game, but also you need to keep reckonings, because if you don't keep your allies sweet by recognising, often in a fairly public manner, sometimes in a backroom favours manner, the good things they've done for you, you might don't do it for you anymore. And this is what I meant when I garbled. You were like, "Why do you like playing in the league?" And I went, "Because it blurs soft and hard power in a way that I never expected." It's like there's a real lovely emphasis on building relationships and power dynamics, like Natalie said, in a really fascinating way. I think that building certain kinds of social relationship is really incentivized with the game design in the league.
Yeah, maybe we're focused a little bit too much on the kind of like political PvP type side of things, because from what I understand, and this is true with many nations in the Empire, many nations or some specific groups within nations can seem very closed off compared to outsiders. And there are certain levels of trust that can be gained over time or action that will suddenly open up doors, and then you'll suddenly realize that this standoffish exterior can be very generous and welcoming and loving by just being around it or doing a certain thing or being friends with a certain person, right? Like doors open all the time. It's a very interesting structure that in all nations, but I think that's especially true of the League in some ways, that as a Navarre coming into the League, people might turn their nose up at some scrubby looking Navarre coming to the thing. However,
I'd be like, I really want to have a chat with that guy about his war paint compared to my masks and what the differences are. And then
but you're a wonderful player, Miv. That's the difference, right? Like you're always there going like, how can I get some game out of every second that I'm here, you know? So but you know what I mean? There's like kind of
how scruffy does he wash? It depends on my mood.
yes. Does he wash? Yeah. It's Empire, so probably not.
No, for all of our players, I know you have lovely steadings where you wash. I visit them regularly. West represent.
Hey, nation stereotypes are fun, right? Like, and it's fun to play with these stereotypes in a safe system with some decent barriers in them and explore these kind of ideas, understand what tribe and family is and all that stuff, right? Like,
I agree with you that the stereotype that's like, oh, they don't wash, they live up trees and wear crayons. The League equivalent of that is, a bunch of conniving villains who are all mouth and feathers, and you can't trust any of them. And that's really, I love that.
Silver spoons, and none of them know their arse from their elbow.
Yeah, but I love. I don't know if either of you play D&D or other role play games, right? But I love playing characters that are just like I was in love with one character called Teddy, who was a paladin, and he was an absolute toff, complete silver spoon. But I deliberately played him that way because I wanted people to love him, right? I wanted all my lefty friends who are really opposed to all of that stuff to really see that Teddy's actually a really great human being, just trying to do his best, and just because he can't help his upbringing, and now he's out here, you know, trying to do his best in the best circumstances he can. And like, I love doing that with characters, right? Like, and you could do that in all of the nations at Empire, right? Like, you go for the complete stereotype and you go, I'm going to be a bloodthirsty killer Navarre who doesn't care about anything apart from stacking piles of Valorn up, right? But then do it with a really soft side. Like, actually, I love baking, and I like giving baking to people is my or very.
I think you could play. I love this because I think that would be very archetypically Navarre, because Navarre have a whole half magic thing recently introduced about the power of sharing food. So if you showed up and you were like, I've just got done doing a lot of sneaky ambushes and I'm covered in blood and I've got a horrible ritual about it. Then you were like, and I've also baked this amazing cake.
Does anybody like a scone?
And we're going to share it. Who wants to value you? I'd be like, that's so amazing. That's Navarre in a nutshell.
Yeah.
For me, because
who wants a custard tart? I made the custard myself. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you protect what you love. So the people that you have done all this quote unquote savage warfare to safeguard get the custard tarts, and so it is. Yeah. So it is in the League.
Shh. Hey, stop telling people about Navarre secrets, okay? Like, this is very much like we've got a reputation to keep. Like, what's that called? What's that great movie? Stardust, the really soppy romantic one.
Movies of all time.
Yeah. Suffolk. I love that movie. Like, absolutely love that. I saw that on. Anyway, I diverge. It's a great movie.
I'll tell you that story later.
It's so good. Anyway, there's a really lovely scene in it. Spoilers, if you haven't seen it, it's like 20 years old. Go and see it, or skip like a minute. But there's a really great scene in it where Robert De Niro has he's a pirate captain, and he kidnaps them, and he's all like, "Rawr, I'm gonna torture you and be really violent," but then secretly he puts on loads of dresses and is like this really wonderful, cute human being. And it's like
he's called Shakespeare because they're all thinking Shakespeare, and he's like, no, wordsmith. It's a fantastic movie.
It's so good. Go see it now. Put the podcast off. You can come back to this.
I think it's on various streaming services.
Yeah, you'll find it. It's great. But what I like about that is like the kind of the Navarre reputation is very much that, by the way. Like, externally, very, very scary, right? And what would you say? Like, I know the Navarre, the League have this kind of reputation for being very conniving, but what's the kind of warmer aspects that you can maybe think of when it comes to the League?
I really can go there with this. I think the League is really
hospitality was not a major part of the League brief.
It's on the League Culture and Customs. It's got an H2 header on the wiki page.
It does. And more to the extent that it's not as in there as, for example, Varushka. League hospitality is actually quite a big thing in both both sides of it. So the idea that you will, of course, invite your nemesis to sit down with you and have a glass of wine is very much within keeping of the or peanuts or whatever it is you've got. Is very, very in keeping with the League brief, but also and it plays into a lot of sort of the Reaper Fest, which is one of our other festivals, which is this the guild as a sort of a family unit, definitely a family unit whilst you're at Anvil, and sort of coming together whilst it is. Reaper Fest is definitely in winter, by the way, I know that all for certain, because it is cold and it is wet, and you come together and you exchange gifts. It's League Christmas. But it has a lot of those elements of real world festivals where you do bring your family together, you exchange gifts, and sort of part of the idea of Reaper Fest is celebrating that everyone's still here another year on. We just do it in a slightly macabre way.
From an outsider, I'll just explain to you what I think the festival is, okay? Everyone wears a mask, and there's a person called the Reaper, who I had to actually research because he features as a character in the intros and outros that we record for this. He comes around, or she comes around the place, and if they see your face, then you're gonna die at some point, and it's not very good.
So I will say that the superstition is that you will die within the year if the Reaper sees your face. It has been proven true on some occasions.
Wow.
I get, and this is just me getting to do probably one of my favourite little lines I ever got to do, but I was actually going to do a past life vision, and during past life visions you technically die for a little while, and it was on the day of the Reaper Fest. And the Reaper saw my face and kind of was like, "You will die within the year." And I got to go, "My death is scheduled for 8:30 this evening."
That's such a weird response. If I were playing the Reaper, I'd be like, "Yeah, all right, go and set a match, have a chocolate." Because he gave me a chocolate padlock one year, and I'm still puzzling out the symbolism of that.
The Reaper is a fantastic character, is played by one of our egregores. The League egregores, in much the way that the League have masks, our egregores are not necessarily fixed, so they might be wearing different masks and different personas throughout the course, and big shout out to the League egregores because they've been consistently fab.
They occupy, I think what's really interesting about the League brief, you asked what at the beginning of this chat, what was different in the field to what we thought it would be, and certainly the League egregore description on the wiki says that they have the name guys, as in disguise, not as in hey guys, and that name I've never heard on the field. I think in the spirit of it is definitely true though. What's happened in the field is that several people, there's 2 or 3 of them at least at the moment, several people have played the egregore, but they play the egregore as different kind of dramaturgy personae. So we had a captain egregore for a bit, we had a bravo egregore for a bit. Some of them are dramaturgy personas, and some of them, I keep saying personae and personas. And some of them are archetypes of the League, like the bravo we had for a bit. And we've also got
a Duke.
Long running at the moment is the heart. We had the Duke of Joy and Sorrow, who is the sort of theatrical merchant.
And we've had the
Harlequin.
Tessa. And we have to mention the Harlequin, who is our longest running egregore and our greatest source of trouble.
Who is a sort of, you imagine every single Shakespeare role that is the guy who likes to drink and party, who might not be telling the truth at all times, but who is here to bring the party with a bit of Lord of Misrule mischief. That's the Harlequin. So if you think Toby Belch, Falstaff, all of those, and all of Shakespeare's fools who speak truth to power in a witty way. So he will come in to your tent and have an opinion, and you need to spar wittily. But what I love about the Harlequin is because he's played by John, he shows all the new players around. He's really, really welcoming, and he is very keen to amass more prosperity for the League and to help people find their place in the great game. So I think.
Oh, yours is the great game. Interesting.
Okay, great game. You guys have the great dance. We have the great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. okay, we're running out of time, so I quickly want to go through a couple of things. In my notes, I just have black, question mark, question mark, question mark. And I think this is because I've heard that black isn't fashionable for some reason in the league at the moment.
That is...
No.
Oh, there might be... that is not... The only thing I can think of is
I've heard of it.
we've currently got a little bit of what could be, or had, technically, sort of, a little bit of bad blood with High Guard.
Oh, yeah, but that doesn't
People
mean
might not be wearing black for that reason. In a similar, but I mean, just to show the other side of that, we did once go through a stage where the League army had really got their backs against the wall, and they all of a sudden heard this jingling, and this wave of orange appeared from the bushes as the Freeborn arrived to save the day. And the next season, we had loads of people showing up in blue, bright blues and oranges, declaring orange their favourite colour. Similarly, after the Grendel raid, which was a sort of a opportunity that we had, loads of it happened across the field, but you got a lot of it in the League. We all showed up wearing purple and loads of bling that we'd nicked off the Grendel. We do like a bit of that, but
That's awesome.
wearing black is news to me.
Yeah,
because I wear an awful lot of black in character.
I wear a lot of black. I mean, I don't think you can generalise fashion in the League, because it's speaking as someone who goes out to look for it quite a lot in character, but certainly not speaking as someone who's an authority necessarily on all of it, because, I'm just one person. But black is quite common in the northern cities, because we have this bit in our brief that says our colour palette is darker, more sombre, more drab. Rude. Sarvos says we're drab. Well,
I would say that.
So
sorry.
black is a way, and also because Temeshwar and Holberg like to wear fur because it's cold. They do a lot of fur trim, so you'll often see black fur trim, brown fur trim, and stuff like that. So, and also when there have been recent events involving the massive destruction of a bunch of mirrors in a certain city, and a few people chose to wear black with mirrored masks as a kind of dramatic national mourning response to that event. And I won't go into that, but there was actually a wave of people who don't normally wear black, because Sarvos is not known for its muted, dark...
Usually, lots of...
Sarvos is big and bold.
Lots of colours and no sleeves. That's us.
Sleeves, but they're all made of like floofy satin. Whereas I'm like wearing half a mile of, half a cow and a load of velvet, but beautifully tooled.
There is a big empress-shaped hole in the League right now. I went to a.
She was my merchant prince in character, so I was in.
Oh, really? Interesting. Oh, wow, interesting. I didn't know you were so well connected. My goodness. I went to Empire Day last year.
Oh, yeah.
Last year. Time at the moment. But the there was kind of morning art projects about it and all that sort of stuff. So really cool how the players do it. It's really cool to hear that people play it out in their fashion sense as well.
All the time.
Some people are on a whole other level from where I am right now, like a whole different.
You will have met people who are like, "Well, I'm never wearing black again." Not until insert diatribe about current events.
And
somewhere else.
I won't say the number of thrones, because I know some people have developed a Pavlovian response to it. But the number of thrones,
they'll be like, "I'm going to wear even more black. I have more of a right to black than those people over there. I'm ordering an enormous black veil, actually, but made of gauze with gold on, and the words "Go away, I am angry with you." Genuinely, I think the different fashion responses to current events is one of my favourite things about the League, and I think there's been a lot of hard work done on the part of players all over the nation to make those fashion trends achievable OC. So obviously the kit brief's quite a high concept. It's hard to buy these outfits off the rack. It's hard to just look like one of the lads from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet that are duelling in the street without a fairly significant cash injection, although it is doable on a budget, but it can be a challenge. And, Mythalon don't really do a huge range of, certainly not the frocks, so this nation brief. But I think I've certainly seen a lot of people kind of doing things like wearing sort of ribbon rosettes, or a coloured scarf kind of tied around the waist. And the Grendel raids were brilliant because people deliberately chose to fizz rep the bling that they had raided. And so some people turned up in giant tiaras and were like, "I've had all these bells I stole back. from the Grendel set into a beautiful headdress, and other people were just like, here is a rope that I stole from a Grendel ship that I am wearing as a girdle. And you had the different ends of society there. Everyone was wearing their bling, but you could get that stuff on eBay for about £2 and still play. And I was able to kind of talk to loads of people in character about what they were doing with their fashion without feeling OC, like the only people who could participate had a huge OC budget. And I think that's really important. Because I think there's a lot of chatter that you find in the league, outside the league, of, oh, you're the cool kids, or, oh, I'd love to be, as cool as you. We are a bunch of dorks like anybody else, and we're all going to Primark to get our bling. A lot of it. I mean, not that we don't also sink a significant amount of time and budget into it, but I would say if worries about that are holding you back from playing the league, do come and play, because I'd love to.
No, I don't. Again, like, we're talking, like, this is very much an experienced player conversation where, and I hate the idea of intimidating anyone out of a nation, because I think it's more like, I personally, and I think this goes for a lot of people that I RP with, I would much prefer to RP with someone that was keen and interested in giving me a good game than if their kit was impeccable, right? Like, if it's one or the other, I'll take the RP all day long, every single day of the week, right? So kit is important, but it's not essential to be at this extremely high level. And you will see when you look on things like the Empire photo forums or other places like this, you'll see the best that is out there, okay? Like, that photographers tend to home in on people that look fantastic and all this stuff. Believe me, my kit isn't amazing and I fit in just fine. No one's going to give you shit for it. Do your best. Follow the brief. Ask questions.
Meet you in the field. I think it would be grand.
Just in case anybody is concerned, and especially like Mim's touched on, sort of fem kit in the league is very difficult to get without commissioning a piece, making a piece, etc. Sort of because of this, there is a degree in the league of costume turnover, in that once you are, maybe you've grown out of a piece of kit or you just don't wear it anymore, people do kind of pass them on. They go on to people within your guild or people you might have just met. They get sold on. So it is really possible to find these pieces both in the field and through chatting to people. The league has got a really, really fantastic sort of set of players. They are just, I mean, obviously not everyone's lovely, but that's rule of large numbers. But there is a real understanding within the league that our costume brief is quite tricky. So let's make it easier for the next lot of people, and they can make it easier for the next lot of people, and it keeps on going.
At least 2 or 3 bits of my major regularly worn kit I got secondhand from other league players who'd been killed in character on Moving Nation and such.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a big clear out because I was moving house, so kit's been passed on. So yeah, the sort of the quote unquote kit barrier is not a barrier to entry. It is out there, and if you are keen, there will be people who want you to find it and will help.
If you're worried about your kit, Facebook's good. Emailing PD is better. So if you're concerned about a piece of kit, you don't know how it's going to dress, you don't know whether it's on brief, you don't know where you're going with stuff, any concerns whatsoever, email PD. If you're feeling a bit more confident about things, stick up on Facebook, see what people are saying, get some input. Like, there's lots of good people out there that want you to join the field, so don't feel at all intimidated by what we've just been talking about. We are almost out of time. Is there anything that's in your mind right now that you're like, oh shit, we didn't say this, and you want to get it out now because time is precious?
I think the only thing, and we covered it a little bit, but I'm aware that because it's me and Mim, and we both play non-combatant characters in the league, we haven't really covered a lot of sort of the combat side of the game. Within the league, just to say, it's very cool. There's a lot of, if you like having a bit of a fight and a scrap, the league does a lot of really cool stuff on it. I believe it is. I think it might actually be the Sea Wolves show up with like a little kind of makeshift bridge that kind of rolls along the floor, so as you can do sort of dueling along the bridge. The armies and the politics around sort of the armies and the generals is also really good. It's probably not area I have a massive amount of information on, but again, the people who do know it are great and are out there, and just honestly, you don't know it, someone will.
I think the Free Company bringing a Kekabeo into battle is enough that anybody even has an interest in that vibe. Like, they know who they are, they're already interested in going off the wall with the league, I think. Like,
absolutely. Also would recommend, if you don't fight, showing up to the battle or showing up to the door, the gate, in full kit is enough to panic anyone. So you don't have to fight. You just sometimes get to be dressed too.
Nice. Mim.
Oh gosh, what would I say? Come and play in the League. It's really fun. It has all the sweep and sway of a Shakespearean drama, but you know,
But also a bit of Bills and Boone.
with a bit more. Well, it's set in the Empire setting, which means that there is gender equality kind of written into the setting, which means that if you're a woman and you want to play a swashbuckling duelist, you can. And if you similarly, it really does not. You can wear the great big flouncing ball gowns are available to anyone. And the doublets and hose are available to anyone. And I really like that. I really, really enjoy it. So, you know, it's not a prejudice-free setting. There's plenty of class prejudice, particularly, I would say, in the League as part of the way that it is designed. But I'm really, really drawn to the fact that there's an LGBT positive, gender inclusive way to tackle Shakespearean vibes. You know?
Yeah, I should say, like, obviously, this is really good. The same goes for every other nation. Obviously, the kind of like masculine, feminine that we understand from the outside world is a lot more apparent in the kind of kit choices that you might make in the League potentially. But yeah, this goes everywhere at Empire. If you want to change what you're wearing, you want to do something else, like whatever it is that you want to do to express yourself at Empire, is pretty much good to go, right? Like, again, if you're at all worried, email PD. They'll set you straight. Not set you straight. God, what a terrible choice of words in such a wow.
They will have the answers you are looking for.
Thank you very much. Good. All right, let's move away from that. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate both of you taking the time to talk to me. This is like the end of us recording all Nations Empire now. We've done it. This is the last one. Celebration. Really, really happy. Thank you to all of the guests that made this possible. Thank you to our patrons who still get nothing at all for supporting us apart from our love and affection. So really appreciate you. Is there any like league-ish close off? Now these started off fairly easy, but now they're becoming more difficult. So for Navarre, it's really straightforward. Someone says strength for the Empire, and then everyone else yells strength to Navarre. It's really straightforward. If you've been to Empire, then you would have heard it. Is there a similar vibe for the League?
Ooh.
Oh, we do sort of have one at the moment. But not necessarily across the League, but definitely for Sarvos and Holberg, and seeing as it's me and Mim representing at the moment. But you can usually get a decent response if you just shout "fuck Skaith."
So hold on, do I just repeat that back to you?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the whole sort of. You can respond, curse this.
Curse this.
Okay.
Oh, the other one. I guess you've got specific ones for each guild. So my guild oath involves an awful lot of the prince says let the mirrors witness and we all chant let the mirrors remember, but that's very specific to my group. But you will find stuff like that across the League.
Okay, which one would you like to do to close it out?
I do nuts because everyone knows what that means, but it's a bit current affairs related though, is all I'd say.
It's just getting people prepped for the game. We've talked about it now. We're committed. So staff
Skaith. So it's all right.
Skaith
is one of the Eternals who did us a wrong un. So
okay, this one's for you, Skaith. On 3, Natalie, you do it. Okay,
oh gosh,
3,
okay.
2, 1.
Fuck Skaith.
Fuck Skaith.
Oops, I said curse this instead. Oh well, that's fine.
Seamless. Boom.